keep our streets safe using high-tech equipment, knowledge of human behavior.
What we're trying to do here is we're trying to make his thought cycle confused.
And nerves of steel.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Law enforcement. But a cop's #1 challenge is survival and not killing anyone in the process.
I have the hostage! I have the hostage!
In a life or death situation, can technology determine who fails and who lives to fight another day? Our team of scientists will test the cutting-edge weapons of peacekeeping.
It's a perfect bullseye.
Equipped with state-of-the-art 3D animation, revolutionary high-speed photography, and sophisticated wireless technology, we'll seek out some of the most powerful, less-than-lethal weapons available to law enforcement, uncovering the scientific secrets
Hands up! Hands up!
of super cops. Every day, law enforcement officers face situations like this. Chaotic kill-or-be-killed environments. Their goal is simple: resolve the situation with no lethal outcomes. They'll use every trick of the trade and every tool available. But to test some of the best tools, they can't get answers out here. They get them here, in the Fight Science Laboratory. Our experts will test law enforcement's cutting-edge tools in increasingly dangerous circumstances. We'll start with less lethal weapons.
Man!
And how they minimize risk and maximize effectiveness. Then we'll examine why one of law enforcement's simplest tools is also one of its most intimidating. We'll also test law enforcement's most valued lifesaver. And finally, we'll challenge a SWAT team in the ultimate high-risk scenario.
Bunker on that door!
A hostage situation with armed suspects. All to answer the question, what is the most powerful weapon a cop can use when lives are on the line? For the first test, stun devices, a way to take a bad guy out without killing him. Led by Dr. Cindy Burr, our team of experts will put these tactical tools to the test. The first less lethal we'll test is one of law enforcement's standard diversionary devices.
Dave, what did you bring exactly?
Well, we've got a flashbang. This is the ALS 471. A flashbang is a product that's used by tactical teams and SWAT teams for dynamic entry, hostage situations, to disorient the subjects.
Smaller flashbangs are used for tactical entries. Larger models, like the one we're testing today, are used for crowd control and riots. To test how well they really work, we need to measure how they affect the human body.
This flashbang, it has 40 grams of flash powder in it with some titanium powder. So when this goes off, in addition to the big bang, we're going to have the spark. So we got to be cognizant about what we're going to have for secondary fire potential on that.
Deploying our less lethal flashbang will be Officer Craig Pumphrey. This Fight Science veteran is a decorated field police officer, and years of experience have taught him the value of less lethal weapons and tactics.
My goal as an officer is not to have to kill you. When you cock an attitude and you want to come and get some of me, I have to take you out. So I have to use what we call less lethal type of tactics.
To test the less lethal stopping power of a flashbang, Officer Pumphrey will deploy and take cover in under 2 seconds. The flashbang's name says it all. Its key stunning components are blinding light and deafening sound.
We've developed a special headphone just for this test. We have an eye sensor here, so this will measure kind of how bright that flash is, and then there's an ear sensor that's going to tell us exactly how many decibels come from that big bang.
Packed inside these steel canisters is a combustible mixture of chemicals, including aluminum, magnesium, and potassium perchlorate. Less lethal weapons expert Dave Dubé leads the test.
That's perfect. Okay, so when we get ready for this, we'll do a 3, 2, 1 countdown. On 1, Craig's going to step through and deploy the device. Guys, everybody else back here with me will have eyes and ears on. Craig will have his eyes and protective ears. And then when we're done with everything, I'll give an all clear.
Of course, the bad guys don't normally have sensory protection. So how disruptive is the flashbang to unprotected human senses? These sensors will tell the tale.
All right, Craig, there you go.
All right.
We'll be back here waiting for you. Okay, Craig, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, on me. 3, 2, 1, deploy. Okay, we're clear?
I see all these sparklers flying over my head, smoke everywhere. This right here is incredible.
The flashbang creates an ear-splitting bang. Our sensors measured at 185 decibels. To put that in perspective, 100 decibels is as loud as a jackhammer.
50% of people who get exposed to that range of sound will experience tympanic membrane perforation, ruptured eardrum. So that's about 50-50 chance when you're exposed to that. That's going to depend on how far away you are from that sound exposure. So the further you are away from it, the less likely you are to experience that. You also experience less sound.
And the flash is just as extreme. The sensors registered 29,375 kilolux. That's like having almost 3 million candles 1 foot from your eyeballs.
Wow. That's going blind.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of light.
The effects are short-lived, but devastating. Data from our cutting-edge technology puts you in the victim's shoes and in his head. The instantaneous flash of light strikes photoreceptor cells in the retina. And as a defense mechanism, the pupils constrict and the eyelids involuntarily slam shut. But it's too late. The sensory cells in the retina continue to send the same information to the brain. A whiteout condition that lasts at least 6 to 8 seconds. That's the flash. Now the bang. Surprisingly, decibels are not a measure of volume, but of sound pressure. And 185 decibels is a shockwave of pressure, more than enough to rupture the eardrum. The waves blast through the middle ear and surge into the semicircular canals of the inner ear. The fluid in these canals is a critical component of equilibrium, and when the pressure waves disturb these fluids, balance is thrown off. So a flash bang leaves you blinded, deafened, and dizzy. And those few seconds of confusion allow the law to gain the upper hand.
I can take the person down, I can take them out, I can get them cuffed in a 6 to 8 second span. And I can do all this, in most cases, without even harming them.
A flashbang is an extremely effective, less lethal tool for law enforcement when the element of surprise is an option. But when an officer is face to face with a suspect, other tools are needed.
Another type of less lethal technology that's used quite a bit by law enforcement agents is what's known as kinetic energy munitions. What these basically are rubber bullets. That's what people commonly think of when they hear of a rubber bullet. They're basically rounds that are meant to be non-penetrating.
Kinetic energy munitions are low velocity, but highly effective. This Arwin launcher fires 37mm baton rounds weighing 78 grams, almost 3 ounces, at 250 feet per second.
Just as a reference, a lot of bullets go almost 2,000 feet per second. So these are fairly low velocity type rounds. They're going to have knockdown power, they're going to have pain compliance. They're basically rounds that are meant to be non-penetrating. So Craig, what we have set up here is we're going to test kind of the blunt impact effect of that baton round. So what I need you to do is fire it at that little rectangle.
But how effective are they? This target will tell. It's a biofidelic device with 3 built-in ribs and backing material that will deform just like a human shot in the torso. Sensors will provide impact data and reveal the likelihood of an injury.
So Craig, you all set?
Ready to go.
Okay, it's going to be on me. 3, 2, 1, engage.
When Craig hit the 3-rib device, we saw about 180 pounds of force.
In our test, the baton performed perfectly. Enough impact to stun, but no broken ribs. Still, there's always a chance of death, which is why law enforcement now refers to these weapons as less lethal instead of non-lethal.
When the object strikes a person in the chest, people have sustained internal bleeding when used at short range.
Internal injuries are always a possibility. But our data reveals that the likelihood is low.
Basically what we see here is we have a VC of about 0.3. VC stands for viscous criteria. It's kind of how the body responds to an impact. So if you were to deploy this round against an individual, there would be about a 10% risk of having a rib fracture.
Our test shows why kinetic energy rounds are a powerful less lethal when precision is necessary.
Doesn't matter how enraged the person is, if I shoot them with this, it's going to put you down.
In high-risk situations, having options and knowing the consequences of each can mean the difference between life and death. One of the newest and most versatile less lethal options can be used in everything from one-on-one confrontations to full-scale riots.
This is the Trooper Special Intervention System, or TSIS. It's a portable water cannon. It uses nothing more than compressed air and water.
Carl, what we're going to do is we're going to have you fire the TSIS right at our tech scan pad, okay? So I'll be able to collect data to see exactly how much force it would take to blow this door down.
This custom tech scan pad holds dozens of individual pressure sensors, and impact data will be collected 100 times in a second.
How close do you want me to be? Because obviously the farther down range I am, the less energy is going to be transferred because it's going to be lost in the air.
I would feel comfortable if we started at 2 yards.
Okay. The impulse gun is environmentally benign. It uses nothing more than compressed air and water. There's no explosives needed. There's no fuses needed. It shoves up to 1 liter of water out the muzzle at 520 feet per second. This type of less lethal tool is used as a tactical option. It's used extensively for riot controls as well as in prisons. I'm good to go.
Okay. Okay, we're hot. 3, 2, 1, go.
I broke it.
I think that was effective.
I think so. Did we get good data?
Well, the good news is we have data.
From 6 feet away, 1 liter of water blasts into the target with over 500 pounds of force, almost triple the force of the rubber baton, and easily enough to obliterate a standard door. It's powerful enough to breach a door. But controlling a prison riot or subduing an out-of-control suspect is a much more volatile situation. So how does this blast of H2O work on humans? To find out, Officer Craig Pumphrey has volunteered to be our 6'4", 260-pound target.
In the name of science, I'm willing to be the guinea pig and take the hit from the water cannon and see what kind of data we can get.
Craig is wearing standard riot gear, including a thick bullet-resistant vest.
Most of the less lethal tools rely upon the attacker to stop him or herself, for example, through pain compliance. This, on the other hand, will give you the pain input and then the mule kick from the water, the kinetic energy, and it will literally put you down.
Can 6 ounces of water really stop a 260-pound subject? He's about to find out.
What did I get myself into?
Okay, Craig, you ready? On my count. 3, 2, 1, go. You okay?
Ah, man, now that hit like a ton of bricks.
You good to go?
I'm good. It's like a million freaking needles all over your body, smack all at one time.
Yeah?
Yeah. Man, that was like right on the right pec. I mean, I'm lit up.
Show us the skin underneath your shirt.
Oh, we did. It's
Right there.
And that's through the armor.
That's through the armor.
We took the vest off and we looked and we were able to see on the skin that he still experienced significant skin trauma, minor bruising and abrasion, even through that bulletproof vest and the t-shirt that he was wearing.
On an average-sized person without body armor, this blast is debilitating. To better understand how these weapons affect the people he uses them on, Officer Pumphrey has agreed to take a point-blank blast, like a hand-to-hand fighting scenario.
It must be crazy doing this, man.
Can this push a less lethal technology one step too far?
3, 2, 1, go. You okay?
Man, I can't hear. Woo! I mean, that whole thing just like went right up through the helmet.
We just shot Craig with 200 milliliter shot, simply about this much in a cup of water, which you saw walk Craig back and actually put him on the ground from that close distance.
The water leaves the chamber traveling at 350 miles an hour. The compressed air divides the water into individual droplets, each of which divides and divides again. By the time they reach the target, the water droplets are only 50 to 100 microns in diameter, about the diameter of a single hair. This high-speed mist slams into the flesh like a shockwave. A single droplet would sting a bit, but tens of thousands of microdrops feel like a wall of needles. And that adds up to a world of hurt.
Man, that's crazy. Anybody who steps up to this and is not a guy my size, you are very foolish.
Weapons like flashbangs, kinetic munitions, and water cannons are high-tech, less lethal options with more than enough stopping power to take down a subject without taking him out permanently.
Did I mention I'm done? I'm through. Done.
But what about a weapon that's decidedly low-tech, even primitive? This law enforcement tool can be a criminal's worst nightmare and man's best friend, the canine unit. A dog's ability to track and locate is unparalleled, but when it comes to capturing a suspect with non-lethal force, could they be more effective than human officers? To test a dog's skills, we've brought in an elite canine. Meet Chino. Chino is a 2-year-old German Shepherd handled by police canine trainer David Reaver.
Well, the dog is primarily an olfactory animal. He is going to use primarily his nose, which is better than a human, and an ability to discriminate odors that we don't even totally understand yet.
When a suspect runs from the law enforcement officer, they shed skin cells, and these skin cells are soaked with adrenaline. It's one of the chemicals your body makes under a fight or flight situation. The police canine can smell that adrenaline on the skin cells, and it's like leaving a trail for the police canine to follow.
Step 1, test Chino's ability to track a suspect.
So what we're going to need you to do is hide somewhere in our warehouse here, and then we're going to release him, and we're going to have him track you.
A sniff of the target suspect's sleeve is all Chino needs. And to reveal how a dog zeroes in on a suspect, a wireless camera will provide a dog's eye view.
You ready, Doug?
I'm ready.
We've got our handler hidden in the warehouse, okay?
Okay. It's a dangerous endeavor when you're trying to find an armed suspect who's hiding from you. Using a dog to locate that suspect means the police officer doesn't have to go into such dangerous situations.
This is the police department. I have a police canine. The police canine will be used to find you. When he finds you, he may bite you. Surrender now, and the police canine will not be used.
When locating a hidden suspect, a dog like Chino doesn't rely on vision. With each swing of his head from side to side, Chino inhales multiple unique smells in the environment. When the dog exhales, small slits on the outside of the nostrils flare open, venting out to the sides. This way, the nose doesn't inhale what it just exhaled. Each inhalation enters a maze of chambers. The nasal cavity is a labyrinth of tissue covered with nerve endings. These nerves are the olfactory receptors, and a dog's nose can contain over 200 million of these nerves, up to 40 times more than found in a human nose. The suspect's adrenaline-laced odors translate into electrical impulses and fly to the olfactory cortex in the brain, which identifies and categorizes each unique odor. And as these signals accumulate, the dog knows it's homing in on its target.
Boy! Chino! That's a good boy! Good boy.
The phytocam reveals the geometry of Chino's search, known as a scent cone.
Chino takes off and he's smelling right now. And what he's doing is he's homing in on what we call that scent cone. For example, you take a suspect, let's say he runs across a football field, okay? You're at one goal line and he runs to the other goal line. And you release the dog. The dog's probably not going to run in a straight line. The dog's going to zigzag back and forth, much like we see in this video. What the dog does is it's picking up that scent, and then as he gets off the scent, he comes back on it. And then that sweep back and forth gets narrower and narrower and narrower, and that's how we call it a scent cone.
Canines' noses can be one of their most valuable assets. But what happens when the suspect is in plain sight? Can a dog actually detain a perpetrator faster than one of the department's finest? To find out, we've called to duty a canine named Casper. This Belgian Malinois and Officer Craig Pumphrey will be given the same challenge: take down a subject 30 feet away. The hurdle? The subject's trying to shield himself behind a patrol car.
So basically, Craig, I have a wireless accelerometer. We're going to be able to tell exactly how fast you were moving as you jump over this car and apprehend our suspect.
I've never been challenged, to outrun a dog. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to give it my best, I'm going to put on some steam, so the dog is going to have his work cut out for him.
This is not just man versus Malinois fun and games. In a real pursuit, split seconds can determine whether a suspect escapes or has time to pull a gun.
Okay, Craig, you ready?
Yeah.
John, you ready?
Ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, time.
Okay, that looked pretty fast.
Fast.
I was surprised. Big guy like you got right over that car.
Yeah, don't let the size deceive you.
Where's your time? 3.03 seconds.
Woo!
All right.
Okay, so let's give Casper a try, right?
Okay.
Fight Science is testing man versus canine to see who's faster at vaulting an obstacle and taking down a subject 10 yards away. Officer Craig Pumphrey took just over 3 seconds. Time to determine if this police dog Casper can beat his two-legged competition. Like Officer Pumphrey, Casper wears an accelerometer to measure his speed.
But now we got to get you protected. Dave, you brought a special suit here, right?
Yes.
With John suited up for safety, we'll see if this police canine can take down the suspect faster than Officer Pumphrey's 3.03 seconds. The suspect only hopes Casper's bark is worse than his bite.
Okay, Dave, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
3.97.
Ooh, it's close.
Yes, and you were at 3.03, just a smidge faster. Okay, so we know you were within milliseconds of the dog. But our sensors showed that you were at about 14 miles an hour, and unfortunately Casper was at 15.
Wow. Wow.
So it was just 1 mile an hour faster.
You know, the dog beat me in fraction of a second. But out in the street, in real life, seconds count. That could be life or death.
But that race was only a 10-yard burst. A Malinois like Casper can hit a top speed of 35 miles an hour. And the average man can only hit about 15 miles an hour.
If I was a suspect and I see Craig coming at me, I would think that I have a better chance of outrunning Craig. With the dog, it's gonna try to bite you, so the one thing you're looking at is that mouth area.
So police have a range of less lethal options, from detonations to deluge to dogs. But what happens when less lethal deterrents don't work and deadly weapons are turned on law enforcement? How do the protectors protect themselves?
I've been a police officer for 23 years, and in that time I have people shooting 9mm at me, 40 calibers at me. What I count on for my defense is a vest.
Officers rely on body armor like bullet-resistant vests every day. So Fight Science is going to put this essential piece of gear under the gun.
During my time as a Los Angeles police officer, I've had many friends that lost their lives in incidents due to guns. I cannot express the importance of an officer wearing body armor while on duty, working patrol, or any function.
So how much force can a bullet-resistant Kevlar vest withstand, and how does it really work? To help us find out, Dr. Sidney Burr has recruited Weizen Shen, an expert who studies how ballistic impacts affect humans.
So if you take the cover, protective cover off, you can actually see there is a set of sensor array behind it, which we can use to measure the motion and the force distribution behind the body armor. And this is the data we feed into the software to estimate what's the likelihood of injuries.
What we have is an anthropomorphic testing module that was developed by L3W J-Core, and this rig was specifically designed to tell us exactly how much force you would get when that bullet hits the vest. We have our vest on top of our sensors, and we have a laser light that we need you to hit.
Our marksman, John McCarthy, will fire a 9mm handgun from 15 feet away through a chronograph, which will measure the bullet's speed. This vest is designated Type 3A, which is a standardized performance rating. 3A vests are rated most effective at stopping bullets fired by handguns. Since 1998, in the United States, 2/3 of officers killed in the line of duty were shot with handguns. So a vest's ability to stop a handgun bullet is critical.
3, 2, 1, fire! Okay, so you hit it right there, right?
Okay.
So let's see where you hit it on the target.
There you go.
Oh, look at that. It's a perfect bullseye. So we can see based on this kind of how that force was distributed from the bullet.
The force of the bullet is dispersed over a large area, preventing it from penetrating the vest or the officer.
And that's actually going through the vest, so
Right.
That's a whole lot of shock that's going into the officer's body.
That's better than the alternative.
Absolutely.
So how does body armor, like this bullet-resistant vest, actually manage to stop an object traveling 640 miles an hour? Our Fight Science sensors reveal the answer. At 640 miles an hour, this bullet reaches the target in 16 milliseconds. Body armor is not in fact made of armor. This bullet-resistant vest is made of 14 separate layers of fabric, and each layer has a different purpose. Kevlar fibers have a high tensile strength because of their particular molecular bonds. As the bullet makes contact, the fabric stretches, and the force begins to disperse outward 360 degrees. The tip of a 9mm bullet is actually rounded, like the front end of a submarine. The nose of the bullet penetrates the first few layers of fabric. But as it slows, it deforms and has more trouble breaching each successive layer as they absorb its kinetic energy. The bullet decelerates to 0 miles per hour in 500 microseconds. That's 500 millionths of a second. But the body still feels 500 pounds of force, enough to cause internal damage, like a broken rib or a collapsed lung.
Let's take a look at what happened to the bullet, right? Because it didn't go through, so it must be in the armor somewhere.
It's got to be in the armor somewhere.
Okay. And it's caught right in the vest. You can see the fibers are all stretched right from that point. If we were to take this bullet out, so that's the bullet afterwards.
Quite a bit bigger than the normal signature. That's where it's flattening out.
It mushroomed right out. So what we see here is it's about a 2.4% risk of rib fracture. So that's pretty low risk. So that means the armor's working. Probably going to knock the wind out of them, but it's definitely not going to kill them.
But no matter how much protection they have, law enforcement will still encounter mortal danger. And when we're in danger, the human body responds drastically. This surge of adrenaline is what's called the fight-or-flight response. Can officers actually use this involuntary response to gain an advantage in life-or-death situations?
Shots fired! Shots fired!
The answer could mean who lives and who dies when officers enter what they call the kill zone. When law enforcement is in jeopardy, they call in the big guns, units trained in the use of special weapons and tactics, SWAT.
There's a 911 call for cops when they're in trouble. They call SWAT. We're trained for barricaded suspects, counterterrorism. But the most difficult thing we do is hostage rescue.
Execute. For our next test, the Fight Science team has enlisted Officer Doug Martin. Not only is he a cop, he's a veteran SWAT team leader, and his handpicked unit is about to face the ultimate challenge. Physiologist David Sandler leads our team of scientists who have designed a difficult mission that will push these officers to their limits.
So we want to find out what happens to these SWAT guys when they go in for these dangerous missions. Normally, when somebody is confronted with danger, something happens called fight or flight response. They generally tend to start panicking and they make bad choices.
It's not normal human behavior to go towards danger, but that's exactly what SWAT officers do. So we have to train ourselves to deal with the physiological effects of going towards danger.
SWAT teams must control their bodies' hardwired responses in high-threat situations when lives are in mortal danger. We want to know if SWAT officers can actually control their body's involuntary physiological responses and even use them to their advantage.
We have to go towards danger. So we have to train ourselves to deal with the adverse physiological aspects of fight or flight.
To test these officers' ability to control body and mind, we've created a high-risk scenario. Hidden in this maze of offices, multiple armed suspects are threatening to kill a hostage. The team will have to enter the offices, locate and neutralize the terrorists, and rescue the hostage in under 60 seconds.
Hands up! Hands up!
The suspects will be two men normally on the other side of the law. They will be armed and dangerous. The simulation cartridges from these real M4 machine guns won't kill, but they can be incredibly painful. This heightens the test subject's perceived risk.
We're going to have them, and the bad guys are going to have them. So we're going to be shooting at real live role players, and they're going to be shooting back at us.
To measure the officer's physiological responses, biomedical engineer Michael Bergen outfits each member of the SWAT team with a high-tech system that will wirelessly transmit data in real time.
These are the electrocardiogram leads.
It's like a mini stress test.
The electrocardiogram is a measurement of the electrical activity of the heart. So the heart has a whole electrical conduction system that makes our heart contract in a very coordinated way. The electrocardiogram is used as a diagnostic for us to determine how healthy our heart is.
In addition to monitoring heart rate, we're also going to keep a close eye on temperature, respiration, and blood oxygen levels.
So he's got a heart rate right now of 89. The green signal is going up and down as he is breathing, and then we can calculate a respiration rate from that.
Excellent. So we'll be able to get their vital signs, so to speak, do it completely wirelessly, and this is going to give us real-time information. So we also want to find out what you're looking at as you're going through. So we have a device designed to measure what your eyes are doing called an eye tracker.
An eye tracker uses two tiny cameras, one facing outwards, the other trained on one eye. This system uses pupil recognition software to track precisely where the SWAT team leader is looking.
We're going to calibrate the corneal reflections. If Doug looks straight ahead, there'll be a yellow circle around his pupil. Now we're ready to calibrate. Look at the first period after S. Okay, now can you look at the period after the W? Okay, now he's ready to go.
And to make this mission as stressful as possible, the team leader will be given an extra hurdle to overcome.
All right, Doug, so there's one more thing we need to do. Going into one of these situations, you're going to be really amped up, and there's no way we can create that naturally.
To generate the realistic adrenaline levels of an actual crisis, Dr. Keller Wortham will give Officer Martin an injection.
We're going to be injecting you with a dose of adrenaline, real adrenaline, epinephrine. It's going to get your heart racing, your muscles working faster. It's going to rev you up. Epinephrine is the fight or flight hormone of the body, so that's what we're creating for you. Hopefully you're going to fight.
Oh, yeah.
Even under strict medical supervision, with thorough safety protocols in place, an injection of epinephrine is dangerous.
The biggest danger with epinephrine would be the heart rate accelerates so rapidly, it gets out of control, and you basically go into heart attack.
We have taken several precautions in the event that you're feeling any chest pain or any shortness of breath. We've got an automatic defibrillator here, so if your heart should get into a rhythm that is not where it's supposed to be, we can shock it back into a normal rhythm. We also have an oxygen tank to administer oxygen to you if you were feeling, as I said, any chest pain, any shortness of breath, any nausea. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
Are you consenting for me to be able to give you that epinephrine shot?
Sure do.
Okay. And you understand the risks involved?
Yeah. I got to be honest with you. Getting ready to do this. I'm nervous right now, but I got a real good crew standing over there, and there's nobody else I'd rather go do this with.
And here we go.
As the epinephrine races into his system, Fight Science technology actually takes us inside Officer Martin's body to examine the phenomenon known as fight or flight. As adrenaline rockets into the bloodstream, it hits Officer Martin's heart in seconds. Heart rate and the volume of blood pumped with each beat increase dramatically. Blood vessels dilate, opening wider to allow greater circulation through the body. Adrenaline opens up the brachial passageways and alveolar sacs in the lungs, allowing more oxygen to enter the bloodstream. Adrenaline also helps the liver release stored glucose, the carbohydrates which are consumed by the body's cells as energy. And adrenaline causes dilation of the small blood vessels and skeletal muscles. With more oxygen in the lungs and strength in the muscles, short-term bursts of energy and power are available to someone in a dangerous situation.
You feeling anything yet?
Heart rate starts to go up, feel it.
With adrenaline pumping before the operation even begins, Officer Martin briefs his team on the mission.
Okay, it's going to be a standard hostage rescue operation. If we hear gunfire, identify a location of a suspect or a hostage, we're going to push to the suspect. Rescue the hostage. Make sure you call last man. Nobody gets left behind. You guys ready? I'm nervous about the mission. I'm nervous about failing. I'm nervous about making a mistake. Because that is absolutely the worst thing you can do, is to screw up one of these missions.
The SWAT team has to locate and neutralize the terrorists because they've threatened to kill the hostage in only 60 seconds.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Move to the breach.
Will their law enforcement training enable them to actually use adrenaline as another weapon in their arsenal? Or will their own minds and bodies become their worst enemies?
Shots fired! Shots fired! Push to the shots!
Martin to CP. We have the hostage has been located and rescued. The hostage is code 4. All officers are code 4.
Code 4 means under control. Suspects neutralized. Hostage rescued. Mission accomplished. The team reconvenes in the lab to analyze the mission.
Well, the good news is the mission was successful. The bad news is you may not have had to take the epinephrine after all.
The physiological data collected is surprising. The measured physical responses of the other 3 SWAT team members increased just as much as Officer Martin's, yet he received the extra dose of adrenaline.
The second you guys busted through the door, your heart rates went up, they stayed up the whole time, and your breathing pattern was remarkably comfortable.
An analysis of the video allows the team to deconstruct and evaluate the mission.
With this eye tracker, you can see where I'm looking. I need to see down that hallway. Look at how the smoke starts to obscure everything. That's one of the biggest hazards that we encountered in there.
All 4 team members had consistent physical responses. All experienced elevated heart rates and body temperatures. Respiration also increased, yet remained controlled throughout the mission.
Most people, we'd see they'd start getting hot, their heart rate would elevate even that much more, their breathing would get erratic, they'd start to panic, but again, you guys were pretty cool. Higher heart rate, but still relatively cool.
There's things we can do to help us operate in an overwhelming physical environment. You can do a controlled breath, where you breathe in, hold your breath for just a second, and then breathe out. Last man! What you're doing is you're filling your lungs with oxygen to try and oxygenate your blood. That oxygenated blood has got to get to your brain so you can think clearly and make good decisions.
The officers sweep through the hallways. When they hear gunfire, they're trained to choose fight over flight and move toward the danger.
We're pushing to the sound of gunfire. So I'm watching my guys and the movements that they're making, and what we're doing is we're reading off each other.
The team encounters the first suspect, but is he friend or foe?
One of the things you look for when you're trying to distinguish friend and foe is behavior. Someone who's aggressive, in this case we saw the suspect with a pistol in his hand, that's your aggressor. Keep in mind everything I'm telling you is happening in milliseconds.
And here, the team makes the tactical decision to split up.
And then, as you can see through here, I can pick up the hostage taker in my vision.
Adrenaline can also create phenomena known as exclusions. Visual exclusions, similar to tunnel vision, can result in a loss of peripheral vision while central focus remains.
So now I'm going, okay, I got to get guns up on the hostage taker, get ready to shoot at any time, and then we're waiting for the bang to go in the room. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to make his thought cycle confused. So he's forced to make a choice as to who he's going to deal with. And realistically, he can't deal with both of us at the same time.
And I waited for that opportunity. Once I saw him separate from the hostage, I fired about 5 rounds at the suspect. And all 5 rounds hit him from about the pelvic girdle all the way up to center body mass.
You mentioned the bang. None of your heart rates jumped when the bang went up, but I can tell you this much, standing outside, looking at the data, we heard the bang and boom, we jumped.
I noticed when the mission was over and they called weapon safe, that's when I noticed the fire alarm was going off. And I never even heard that when we were pushing into the rooms. At the same time, I can hear my guys calling, give me a 2, I need a block, last man. Hook right, hook right, hook right. Last man. In custody, he is down.
This is another byproduct of adrenaline. Like visual exclusions, auditory exclusions are essentially tunnel hearing.
Last man.
The brain ignores non-essential sounds.
Shots fired, push to the shots.
In Officer Martin's case, even pumped full of injected epinephrine, he blocked out the ear-splitting fire alarm.
Last man. Get right, hook it right.
So he could focus on the matter at hand.
Push to the shots. So auditory exclusion, on one hand, I'm excluding the things that are not consequential or important to me. On the other hand, I'm listening for those cues that I trained to listen to so that we can execute the mission. It's not the first time we've heard or felt flashbangs. It's not the first time we've been exposed to smoke. It's not the first time we had a live adversary. So if you can train in that environment, very realistic environment, when you really encounter it, it's just another day.
Overall, very impressive, and the data that we got confirms that you guys are ready for action.
I got a good crew. That's why it looks smooth.
All you can do is train as hard as you can, as realistically as you can, so that you can try and make the right decision when it's real.
The goal of law enforcement is to protect the lives of every citizen, even the ones on the wrong side of the law. Science allows us to understand the effectiveness of less lethal weapons and protective gear. But when lives are on the line, enforcing law and order comes down to maintaining control. The mightiest law enforcement weapons of them all, the bodies and the minds of the officers themselves.